YouTube! Special treat for y'all today. We're going to rank all of the faction abilities. We're talking passives, actives, and ultimate abilities. And what better way to rank them than everybody's favorite recycled format, tier lists. We're going to double dip today as well, because we're assigning points to each of the tiers, and factions will earn points based off of which tiers their abilities fall in. So F tier will earn 0 points, D tier 1 point, so on and so forth. At the end, we're going to tally up all the score totals and rank the factions in order from worst to first. And you can trust the accuracy of these rankings 100% beyond a shadow of a doubt, because as Junk here commented, the AV opinion is the only one that matters. So freaking true. And if you would like a chance to be featured in the video, keep that community engagement up by liking the video, commenting, and subscribing. Y'all have been amazing to me thus far, and it's been a blast making content for y'all. Starting off with the cleaners and their passive, incendiary rounds. Your bullets gain a burn damage over time effect each time you hit a target. I feel this ability is more annoying than something that is truly super impactful in the grand scheme of things. There are only a few rare instances of this passive actually making a meaningful improvement to your time to kill, one of the most apparent instances being the SVD becoming a one-shot headshot kill to 100 HP targets. But most of the time, this passive is just going to help you pick up a few extra kills here and there from burn damage that you wouldn't have gotten anyways. And keep in mind, this is one of the few passives in the game that has an actual drawback in that you have a meaningful drop in your effective damage ranges. So with all that said, I believe that the incendiary rounds are the definition of C tier. This is an average passive that does have some niche cases where it's more useful than others, but ultimately isn't super impactful. Incinerator Drone is, in my opinion, another C tier ability from the cleaners. The Incinerator Drone feels clunky at times to use because there is a slight delay from when you use the ability to when your character actually lets it go, which can cause it to hit some cover and terrain that you didn't intend it to. The drone can effectively act as a second lethal equipment on a cooldown, as it has a travel path which leaves a fire trail causing damage over time effects to enemies caught in that, as well as pick up a kill on whoever is caught at the apex of the flight path when the drone actually explodes. But anyone not caught at that apex of the flight path can easily pick up a kill on you while you're stuck in animation, and ultimately this ability is pretty average in my opinion. Next up, the Firebomb. This ability has caught a lot of flack lately and pissed off a lot of players, but honestly I don't think the ability is S tier, rather I view it as an A tier ability. The Firebomb is essentially a get off me tool which causes an explosion with your character at the epicenter. Anyone right next to you will instantly die, usually, which can be pretty annoying as there are sometimes it feels like there is no counterplay that you could have done. But this ability does have some drawbacks. For instance, if you are not right next to the cleaner, while you will take some burn damage, you won't instantly die, so if you have good reaction time, you can pick up the kill on the cleaner using the ability and live to tail the tale. Also, and here's a crazy thought, just don't chase cleaners around corners. Take corners wide because they are usually probably looking to bait you in to get close enough to hit you with the Firebomb. And that brings me to my last point, and that is that Firebombs need to be an up-close ability and you have to be right on top of your enemies. The Firebomb is definitely strong and annoying at times, but not top tier. And finally, the cleaner's ultimate, the Purifier. The Purifier is an A tier ability. This ultimate is one of the best, if not the best ability for clearing out a small room or an objective. This thing pretty much instantly kills anything that it touches, and even if you somehow survive getting hit by the Purifier, you usually always die to the damage over time effect that it inflicts upon you. The Purifier also has the benefit of being cancelable, so if you don't shoot the weapon and cancel it, or if you die before firing the weapon, you'll still have your ultimate available to you at the start of your next life. But much like the theme of the cleaners overall as a faction, the Purifier is limited by its range. It does not have a far reach, meaning its effectiveness is massively impacted by the map you play on, as well as the game mode and section of the map you are playing on. This limitation holds the Purifier back from being an S tier ability, but is still a very strong and fun ultimate to use. Next faction up is the Phantoms. The Phantoms passive, Hardened, will be our first S tier ability in this video. The fact that you have an increased health pool but have access to all the same weapons and equipment that other factions can use just means that you put yourself at a mathematical advantage over any player using a faction other than the Phantoms. And yes, this is despite the nerf that recently hit the Phantoms. I won't go into too much detail here as I made a whole video breaking down that nerf that you can check out. I'll put up a card on the screen and a link in the description. But even with the slower move speed and health regen delay, if you play to your outs and take smart engagements, which you should be doing anyways, 115 HP as a passive is just almost too good to pass up on. And then on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, the Blitz Shield will be our first and only F tier ability. Pre-Phantom nerf, this ability was going to be D tier, but post-nerf, this ability is actually useless and needs a rework. It was already weak, you can't use your weapons with the shield, and you can't protect your teammates, and it had a lot of counters. But now that you're 5% slower, this ability is actually useless as you can't catch up to enemies to bash them with the shield. This ability is F tier, never use it. Mark Rubin, please rework it. The Mag Barrier is an A tier ability. The ability to put down a deployable cover that allows you and your teammates to shoot through is so damn good. You can use this ability offensively and defensively, it's so versatile. The things holding it back from S tier is that it is more easily countered than some other abilities in this game. Dedsec can hack it, but more than that, one EMP grenade, which any faction can use, instantly destroys the barrier, and it has a lengthy cooldown period. But still, the Mag Barrier allowing a one-way stream for your bullets to find your enemies, and they can't return fire to you and your teammates, makes for a very strong A tier ability. The last ability for the Phantoms is their ultimate, the Aegis. The value of the Aegis comes from your ability to create space for your teammates and definitely fits the role of the tank faction perfectly. People crap on this ult way too much as they get too tunnel visioned on kills, and you're admittedly not going to get that many kills using this ability most of the time. But you effectively turn yourself into a moving bunker, which creates so much space for your teammates to either hold down an objective or help push an objective. This ability is B tier though, because even though it is very strong for the reasons I just listed, you yourself in the ultimate don't have a lot of range to fire at people, have reduced speed, and is admittedly a lot worse in kill-based modes like TDM and Hotshot, as players tend to be more spread and less grouped up, and this ability usually shines in objective game modes where teams group up on objectives. Aegis is a B tier ability, but don't sleep on it, it's still very useful and can be very high impact in teamfight scenarios. Next up, the Libertad. Their passive, oh god, Espiritu de Libertad, immediately starts regenerating your health and nearby ally health. This passive goes into the B tier. It's good, but it's not amazing. There is never a moment I recall personally where I survive a gunfight, heal up such a substantial amount, and think to myself, man, I never would have won that next fight if it wasn't for the Libertad passive. It's good, always helpful, and you don't need to think about it to use it, but it isn't amazing or game-changing. I'm going to also put both the Biovita and El Remedio in the B tier as well. I think they are very interchangeable, but I will put the El Remedio above the Biovita boost. El Remedio can provide so much more healing output than the Biovita, but both abilities have their use cases. Biovita is great for game modes where you stay on the move, like escort and kill-based modes, and has a shorter cooldown, whereas El Remedio provides prolonged healing in a stationary area, which makes it fantastic for game modes like Domination and Occupy, but both can be very useful. And the Libertad Ultimate, Medico Supremo, is our first S tier ultimate ability. This ultimate can easily change the tide of a team fight in your team's favor. While it doesn't make you unkillable, it gets you pretty damn close to that point and provides the HP and healing buffs to not only you, but also to your teammates in an area of effect. And you're also not limited to a range because you still use your primary weapons to dish out damage while receiving the benefits of the ultimate, making it an easy S tier in my opinion. Next up is the Echelon, starting out with their passive, low profile. I feel like many players don't utilize their minimaps nearly enough as they should due to how hectic this game can be, but having a passive that prevents you from appearing on the minimap, regardless of what you do, is extremely useful, especially when going against more highly aware players. Thus, this ability will go into the B tier. Not amazing, but just a good perk to have. The Intel Suit ability that lets you wall hack has certainly fallen from grace compared to where it used to be. Wall hacks no longer show for teammates, only a very brief ping on the minimap, and there is now a very sizable cooldown for this ability once it's over or you die, both these changes just lowering the overall effectiveness of this ability. I'm still going to put it into the B tier as having knowledge on enemies' whereabouts is very powerful, but fewer and fewer people use this ability in games. It's a nerf that I have noticed, and for good reason. Next is a digital ghillie suit, which I will slap right into the C tier. This is a very selfish, low impact ability where in the best case scenario, it helps you get a half second to a second jump on an opponent before they notice you, which helps you secure the kill. But that's best case. A lot of times you can still get caught out, and even if you get a kill with this ability, it's one-time use before it goes on cooldown. The only saving grace really is that it does have a very short cooldown, especially in comparison to the Intel suit ability, which makes this ability fairly popular, especially in kill-based game modes. And with the sonar goggles, we have our second ultimate in the S tier. What is there to say, man? Wall hacks paired with a one-shot kill pistol, maybe 2 shots at most at longer ranges, this ultimate is the perfect blend of a high impact ability and a very high fun factor. Next up, the Dedsec faction, who is everyone's favorite faction because of one little ability. But we'll get to that one in a second. First up is the Fabricator passive, which just lets you restock your equipment after a certain period of time, assuming you stay alive of course. Very useful, as you can spam claymores to hold down pathways, spam EMPs to take out equipment and abilities, or spam explosives on objective sites. It's going to go into the B tier. It's not the most impactful passive, but it's very useful and just a nice boost to have. The first active ability you can use on the Dedsec is the Hijack ability, which I'm going to put into the B tier because it is very dependent on the enemy team comp you go against. If you go against players using mag barriers, spider bots, ADS systems, and turrets, this ability is going to do wonders for you. But if there are few or no people on enemy team using these abilities, then this ability is actually worthless. So being right in the middle makes the most sense. Next, everyone's favorite ability, the spider bot. Honestly, this ability is mid AF, and is just more annoying than anything else. And I get why people hate this ability so much. Anything that takes away your autonomy as a player is annoying to play against. But there are multiple counters to the spider bot. You can hack it, shoot it before it gets to you, shoot it off yourself, shoot it off of teammates, and EMP it. At best, this ability helps you get a singular pick. But outside of the bomb game mode, that's not very impactful in the grand scheme of things. So C tier is as high as I'll go. And I'm going to put the Dedsec ultimate in the A tier. This ultimate is one of the highest impact ultimates in the entire game. But what keeps it from the S tier is that this ability is almost entirely reactionary. Aside from the perceived last push of a game or the last 25 seconds of the game, you never want to use this ability proactively. This means 95% of the time, you can only use this ability reactively, which while it remains very powerful because it cancels all other abilities in the game, including ultimates, prevents it from being S tier. The GSK come in hot with their passive being placed into the S tier. It's harder to get full value out of this passive like the Phantom HP boost passive, but think of the no headshot multiplier damage on you being effectively a bigger HP pool. If you hit enough headshots to lower your weapon's time to kill, then you will always kill your opponents faster than they can kill you, which makes this an S tier passive. But after starting off with a banger, we come to the Shockwire ability, which I'm putting down into the D tier. Shockwire isn't completely useless, but it's way too easy to deal with as an opponent. It's more of a very minor inconvenience than a true threat. But now we come to the ADS, which is chef's kiss straight into the A tier. The ability to have a prolonged trophy system destroying all incoming grenades is amazing. It makes defending objectives so much easier, and honestly the only thing holding this ability back from S tier is the fact that this ability gets little to no value if your team is constantly having to assault objectives and can't hold down an objective. But there are a few abilities as satisfying or as impactful as a well-placed ADS system. Finally, the Flash Shield ultimate. I'm going to put it down into the B tier. If your teammates have your back and keep enemies from shooting at you from the sides and from behind, this ultimate feels great and lasts a long time. But far too often, I have duds where I die almost instantly, and unlike the Cleaner ultimate, you completely lose this ability if you die anytime you activate this ability. It's good and does have a solid fun factor, but it's not as good as a lot of all other ultimates in this game. We finally come to the newest faction in the game, the Highwaymen. Their passive will also go up in the S tier, but at the bottom of S tier. Giving yourself a higher rate of fire and reload speed is like having 2 free extra attachments on your gun and gives yourself an inherent advantage over other players, but this does require a 4 kill streak to set up, and until then you effectively have little to no passive. But once you do have those stacks, man does it feel great to use. Next up is the M79 grenade launcher, and I'm going to put it down into the D tier. I was scared of this thing when it was teased in the X debrief for Season 2, but man was that unwarranted. At best, you're getting 2 kills with this thing before it goes on a 1-minute cooldown. And it's just very clunky to use, and enemies really need to be right in the epicenter of the explosion to die. It's just not very good, but what is good is the other active ability of the Highwaymen, and that being their scrap turret. The scrap turret is a B tier ability. It's not amazing by any means, as there is a lot of counterplay to it, such as shooting it, explosives, EMPs, and Dedsec hack, but this ability is very set it and forget it, and can help pick up extra kills and assists for you here and there throughout the match. Finally, we have the Saw Launcher ult. I believe this to be another A tier ultimate, and what holds it back is the fact that its usefulness is heavily determined by what map you're on. Close quarter tight rooms, this ultimate is amazing. Wide open maps, it's still usable, but much more difficult to get high impact and reward from it, but overall, it's still a very strong and fun ultimate to use. So now we come to the point where we tally up all the scores and rank the factions by their overall point accumulation. We do have a few ties, so I placed those tiebreakers in order by my gut feeling. And besides hating me when I eat ice cream, my gut has never steered me wrong before. So, we see the Libertad coming in first place as the best faction, followed by the GSK, Highwaymen, and Echelon, filling out 2 through 4. Then filling out the bottom half, we have Phantoms in 5th, Dedsec in 6th, and Cleaners in last, but certainly not least. I'm honestly surprised by this ranking as I tallied the points, but the Libertad are honestly just a very solid all-around faction. They have no bad abilities, a passive that is always useful, and one of the most impactful, if not the most impactful ultimate in the entire game. What tanked the Phantoms was a new movement speed nerf, making their Blitz Shield ability completely useless, earning them 0 points. Prior to the nerf, I would have put the shield in D tier, and just that 1 extra point would have caused a 4-way tie for second place. Thus, my gut rankings for this tier list would have been Libertad in 1st, Phantom 2nd, GSK 3rd, and Highwaymen 4th. Even though I love Dedsec, I'm honestly not surprised to see them fall so far, given how a large majority of their kit makes them more of a flex counter pick, rather than something you want to blindly select and lock in every match. And Cleaners come in last. I truly believe the Cleaners only have one annoying thing about their kit, the Firebomb. Their passive and drone are not super impactful at all, and their ultimate is very well balanced.
So let me be clear.
I don't think there is a single bad faction in this game. While Xdefiant isn't perfectly balanced, I don't think that the Xdefiant development team gets enough credit for the overall balancing. I think all factions are perfectly viable, and while some certainly are stronger than others, I never feel like I'm handicapping myself by picking certain factions over others. All have their strengths and weaknesses, but all are usable and all have great fun factors. That's it for my breakdown and analysis. Let me know what you think of my tier rankings in the comment section below. Leave a like if you enjoyed. That's about all I have to say. As always, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. See you around.